What's going on, everybody, and welcome back into C. Mitch Clips. I've got another new episode here. I know it has been a minute, been since the summer about now, checking in here on 11/20/2024, getting really close to Thanksgiving break now. I thought it would be a good time to check up in on my two favorite Philadelphia sports teams, for better or for worse, the Philadelphia 76ers and the Philadelphia Eagles. Now, we're sitting around the halfway point for the Eagles, and things are going well. It's very early on still for the Sixers, who have been in the news for all of the wrong things. And before I get overly negative and upset and go on another, staple Sixers rant, I'm going to start with the Eagles. We're going to start positive. You can stick around for the bad news with the Sixers later if you want, but we'll start things off on a positive note. Now, the Eagles started the season 2-2 going into their bye week with two bad losses. Honestly, a fluky loss to the Falcons 22-21 in week 2, and a just terrible beatdown from the opening kickoff in Tampa Bay and losing 33-16. Left a lot of questions, a lot of things to be desired at the bye week. There was a lot of talk on Nick Sirianni. Is he going to stay? How are we going to look after the bye week? There were serious questions of how, and more so when, is he going to get fired after this sloppy start, which I won't lie, I was completely on that bandwagon as well. Losing that game to the Falcons the way that it happened, the defense gets shredded with the last, minute or so, less than 2 minute situation. The offense runs a silly play call. That's what we'll call it. And yeah, Saquon does not drop that ball on that little out really ever again. Just unlucky loss, but still counts the same as any other loss. And there was, like I said, a lot of questions going into the bye week, especially an early bye week. But the Eagles really needed it to get AJ Brown back, get more healthy, and we saw that. Since then, they have not lost a game, putting them at 8-2, and by far the most championship hopeful team in Philadelphia right now. However, there were questions of how legit this team is with these wins coming over the Browns, 20-16 out of the bye, then a blowout of the Giants, 28-3, and then there was a pretty good win at Cincinnati over the Bengals, who are playing good football but just cannot win a game. So there's questions there, but that was a dominant win as well, 37-17. That second half, the Eagles looked completely put together and just finished the job. Now we got the ball rolling, going into Jacksonville, where they were up 22-0 at one point, nearly blew the game away. And at this point, again, it was like, all right, Sirianni, I don't care what the record is, these questions or these decisions and your silly decision making is going to end up losing us a game down the stretch, as this team shouldn't be competing with us whatsoever. And then now we see the Lions absolutely take care of business over the Jags, who are without Trevor now, but still put up 49 on that defense. After the Jags game, we went into Dallas, beat up and whooped up on the lowly Cowboys this year, 34-6, as expected. I mean, sloppy first half start, and the Eagles didn't look dominant really until that second half, especially the offense. The defense, I want to say there was one drive the entire game where the Cowboys were seriously threatening and putting together a decent drive, and that ends with that CD, the high controversy of not being able to see the ball in the end zone with the curtains open with the sun. And that brings us into last week with the Commanders. Big win over Washington, 26-18. And this one was the most NFC East game I think I've ever seen. Washington came out to play from the beginning, went up on us because the Eagles could not score any fucking points in the first quarter. That's just how it's been. Not acceptable, and I don't know how long the Eagles are going to be able to keep up and win games when they're not scoring in the first. Like, the first quarter does matter. Yes, it's not the third or the fourth or in the second half where the lights are really the brightest, but you're setting yourself up for a harder finish. You're giving yourself more work to do to put away in the second half. Although the Eagles have routinely shown that they can and have done that, they put teams away in the second half all year, except for that Jaguars game, basically. And this week was no different. This was a huge win, basically solidifying them at the top of the NFC East, now sitting at 8-2, while Washington falls to 7-4. There is that one game difference from the Eagles having their bye week so early and Washington not. And on a quick turnaround, this was a great performance from the defense, who a lot of people were questioning their legitness. They haven't played a solid team. Now they're going to get Washington, which has one of the best offenses in the league. Jaden Daniels and Jalen Hurts, I'm sorry, have basically identical stats and have been on one all year. This Washington offense has been a monster, and it got shut down here tonight in a game that looked a lot closer than it really should have been. Jake Elliott never leaves points on the board, leaves 7 up here, and that would make the game a little bit. That's a whole nother possession in a game that was 26-10 late fourth. They took control. The defense really solidified themselves as being legit here, and I know he's been getting a lot of love after this game, but man, what a pick Quinyon Mitchell has been from Howie Roseman in the first round. I do remember a lot of people saying, "Oh, why not Terrion Arnold?" Quinyon was the first corner taken off the board, and he's been locked down. He's been locked down all year. If only he would catch a couple of his bobble picks, then I mean the stats would look even better. But he is a serious contender for defensive rookie of the year. I mean, this guy is on a Darrell Revis level of shutting down receivers right now. He didn't even get targeted like while covering Terry McLaurin for over 20 snaps Thursday night in prime time. Everyone really got to see what Quinyon was all about. And then can't highlight him without highlighting the second round pick and fellow corner out of Iowa, Cooper DeJean. Man, he has been everywhere on the field. He's been great in coverage, a great tackler. He has been playing his role perfectly, and then those two are a prime reason why this Philadelphia defense has completely reset. It looks a lot different from last year. You know, they're actually stopping people this year. And the secondary has been a great part of it. Typically, the Eagles have a stellar defensive line, and they're generating a lot of pressures. You know, they're not asking too much of their corners. And when we have our good defenses, like the year we won the Super Bowl, or not the year we won the Super Bowl, the year that we went to the Super Bowl with against the Chiefs a couple years ago, it was more so that defensive front. Yes, Bradbury and Slay were good, and CJ was up there, but we had a historical good defensive front, and that's where a lot like they play into each other. It's cohesive. When the D line's getting there in 3 seconds, you're only asking 3 seconds for your corners to guard them. Though when your pass rush isn't getting there, that's more that the back end of the defense has to pick up. Two more players I want to highlight on this defense that have been crucial in this run. Zach Bond and Kobe Dean, man. Who would have thought that going into this season we would be here sitting at week 11 and the Eagles would have one of the better linebacking cores in football? Because it wouldn't be me. As optimistic as I've been about Nakobe Dean, literally since he's got here. I vividly remember watching the draft and being a little upset in the second round when we did not take Nakobe Dean that year, even though he would fall to us later in the third. Um, he just hasn't, had the start to his career that he probably thought he was going to. About the injury bug, playing special teams a lot. But this year he really got his shot, and man, has he owned up to it. He's been a tackle machine. He's been generating pressures. He had that game-sealing pick against the Jaguars in a game that was way too close, way too fast. But he came through. He made the play. I feel like that's a result of these training camps. I remember he specifically cited that Saquon and Jalen would run that, and they told him that Saquon was the first read if he was on the linebacker. He sees that same thing here, and that's exactly what happens. He reads it, makes a beautiful interception, beautiful pick, and man, they have been great for the Eagles this year. In what is going to be a probably cemented draft class, this defense has turned things around and has picked up the slack for the offense, who, while it has looked great at times, has also struggled a fair amount of times and completely looks like an entirely different team with A.J. Brown out there. The offense just they churn. Guarding AJ and Devonta Smith at the same time, although the numbers might not be gaudy this year, has been a tough task for anybody. Jalen has been having after a rocky start to the season, has really calmed down. Only one turnover since the bye week, and that was a pick, of course, in the red zone against Dallas. Although he's rebounded, currently sits with 12 touchdowns, the 5 interceptions on the year, as the tush push has been really working all year again. Not to the same level, but 12 touchdowns passing, and let's see, an additional, I want to say 7 or 8 on the ground. It's been I'm sorry, scratch that, 11 rushing touchdowns on the ground this year. So it's going to put him at 23 touchdowns to 5 interceptions with a 62 QBR. He's been playing very efficient football. And while the Eagles have been a run first team, honestly, he's still been able to go out there and move the ball up and down. He makes smart reads. He throws a nice deep ball, and that deep ball he seems to finally be getting some credit for this year. He's been great since the bye. We just look to see him kind of, and the offense in general, shake that first quarter struggles because, like I said, we're going to need to be able to score in the first quarter. That has to happen. We're going to run into a team in the postseason, maybe later down the year, like the Lions, who once they jump out to a fast start, it's over. You cannot be playing catch up to a team with an elite offense like that. I don't care how good the defense is because then you're asking way too much of them. This weekend, at the time I'm recording this, the Eagles will be playing Sunday night in LA at the Rams, who have come back around a little bit. I'll say just a little bit with getting Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua back. So this should be an interesting matchup for what's been a very good defense and secondary of the Eagles. Switching over to the other side, the offense. We're gonna stay with the offense here for a second. Kellen Moore was I don't want to say controversial. I mean, I do know a lot of people that were very high on him, but I feel like there was the same amount of people who were somewhat negative on him as well. But like concerns of, he's too fancy, he's running too much unneeded motion, but that's better than no motion that we had last year. Not enough under shotgun, and that's something we've seen him kind of flip his head on. Hurts has been in the shotgun, and the Eagles have been running the ball a lot, a lot, a lot. And honestly, that's what you expect them to do. And I'm sure there'll be riots and chants and signs at the Eagles game to say run the ball when you have a guy like Saquon Barkley back there who has been, up to this point, maybe the second or third best offensive player in the entire league. And he sits right up there with Derrick Henry and Jamar Chase running for offensive player of the year. He's been the lifeline of this Eagles offense most of the season with multiple multi-touchdown games. There you go. I had to go multiple right there. He's been a beast, plain and simple. I mean, this man does not get tackled. He is a tackle breaking machine. He finds the end zone, except for when Jalen vultures his touchdowns, of course. Um, but the team doesn't win without him, plain and simple. And the fact that Philadelphia now has a running back in a running centered offense as capable of Saquon is scary for other teams. Kellen Moore seems to be completely content with sitting there and handing the ball off to him 30 times a game. And I mean, ultimately, that's what we brought him here to do. We brought him here to use him and to make sure that he would be, the lifeline of our team. And so far this year, he's already over 1,000 yards easily, sitting at 1,137 on 197 carries already with 8 touchdowns. I mean, this team is leading the league in rushing, and like just from the stats perspective, leading the team in rushing leading the NFL in rushing with 180 yards per game. Now, whether that's a mix between Saquon, Kenneth Gainwell, even who's come in and given some good runs in tired Saquon moments, and then Jalen scrambles for first downs. This is how you win football games. They're sixth in the league in points against, averaging 17.9. So we'll give them 18 points per game. And seventh in the league in points for with 26. This is a recipe for a winning football team and a team that's going to win down the stretch. Elite running the ball and a great elite defense as well. This is how you win tough playoff games, as the weather gets colder. And man, it does get colder, especially at the Link at home in Philly and through some of these other NFC contending teams. There's a chance they're going to have to play in some cold games. And they have the perfect offense that's built for it. A team that can run the ball, control the clock, as well as play elite defense, maybe limit the opposing offense to shorter drives. And that's honestly the recipe for beating these very high powered offenses. And teams like Kansas City, teams like Detroit, teams like Green Bay, even Tampa, who's had our number all year. All the last few years, basically since Jalen's been in the league. I'd like to see us rematch with them with our fully healthy team this time. Um, that could be a great game. And the way this team is going right now is a recipe for long-term success down the stretch, especially with the elite play that they're getting from their corners. That will be one thing, is to see how these two rookies in DeJean and Mitchell are going to play down the stretch, especially in the playoffs, when any given rep can change, either win or lose you a game. Big moments. I think these are both big time players and should live up to it. But coming forward, the schedule's not getting any easier. The Rams is a team that's given us trouble in the past that we've beaten. I would expect that we beat them on Sunday night as well. But still a team that can put up points in bunches is not the easiest matchup offensively with Kyron Williams back there. Matthew Stafford, I don't care if he's 75 years old, can sit there and read a pocket and make life for defenders hell every night. And then Puka, who's a great physical, also great after the catch receiver, and then obviously Cooper Kupp as well on the other side. And then after that, we have to go and travel into Baltimore on December 1st. That's going to be a tough game. 4:25 kickoff. You already know it's going to have that later afternoon big game feel, and it is between two of the best quarterbacks in football. The Ravens defense has been struggling a little bit. They didn't let up a single touchdown to the Steelers this week, but I feel like that might say a little bit more about the Steelers offense than it does the Ravens defense. But that's going to be a marquee matchup. Then we get a tune-up week hosting the Panthers. A little 1 o'clock kickoff. This game should not be remotely close. If this game is remotely close, there's going to be some problems. That especially it being a home game, they could get booed off the field if they're only up by a touchdown at halftime, and I wouldn't be mad at that. Then next week, another tough matchup with the NFC North. I'm sorry, the AFC North taking on the Steelers on 12:15. Another 4:25 game, big game. We just saw Washington come short of beating them. The Steelers sitting at 8-2 as well, are winning football games any way they can. It's a lot of times the defense, and I couldn't see our offense struggling mightily against the defense, and this one should be a heater. Very, very much a toss-up game. And then after that, we get Washington again, this time in Washington after what's going to be a physical week before in Pittsburgh, well, facing Pittsburgh. This should be a tough game. Divisional games typically get split, and I would imagine we have to drop one of our last three, which are Washington, Dallas, and New York. Not New York though. Saquon, that's the last game of the season. I doubt Saquon or many of the starters are even playing in this game. But still, I mean, tough to have three straight divisional games to close out your year. Those just mean more. But things are good for the Eagles right now. A relatively healthy team as Jordan Mailata came back off of IR last week. Lane Johnson's back, and a team with a lot of depth. Even when we saw Fred Johnson step in, he played pretty well for both Mailata and Johnson. Mekhi Becton has been good this year in his first year at right guard. Bryce Huff is going to have wrist surgery as of this morning. Supposed to be back later in the season. Not too worried about Bryce Huff as he's had a pretty horrendous start to being an Eagle. We'll call it how it is, but this means more playtime for Nolan Smith, a guy that I'm pretty high on, and I think could really use these developmental reps throughout the season before we get into the playoffs. And man, it's going to be a hell of a finish for the Birds. So I'm excited to see where this team goes, and I I hope it's far. I mean, their window right now is set to be open. This can easily be our year. They just have to win these games down the stretch and continue to play Eagles football the way they have been. Now, let me gather my breath, gather my thoughts as we're going to switch into the Sixers side of things. So take all of the positive Eagles content I just spewed out and imagine literally the exact opposite as the Sixers have literally ripped my heart out over and over and over again. This year, we signed Paul George going into the year. It's supposed to be our year, like it is every single year. We're supposed to trust the process. This is the year. Something changes. It's the same cycle with the Sixers. Something small changes, or we get a new player, or this, and that. And we're like, okay, this is it. This is the year. This is the best team we've ever had around Joel Embiid. And it feels like we say that every year. And then every single year, Joel Embiid misses time in the regular season, misses time in the playoffs, and we get bounced before the second round. Every single year, it's the same exact thing. Except for this year. This year it got even fucking worse. Even worse. Um, and for a team that has honestly nailed their draft selection this year with Jared McCain, who is literally the only bright spot on this team, averaging 15 a game. He's got multiple. I believe he's got over 20 plus in his last 5 or 6 games now. He has been the guy for this beat up 2-11. Yes, 2-11 Sixers team. And that seems to be the question, though, is really, are the Sixers already done? Are they cooked? They're sitting here at 2-11 early in the season. It is a long season. We got about 70 more games, a little less, but We've only played 13 games, and we've looked horrible. They've looked like shit. Joel Embiid is getting called out by Tyrese Maxey in team meetings, and that is unacceptable. I'm so sick and so tired of hearing all of the bad things that Joel Embiid does because trust me, there's a lot of them. And it seems like he is in a competition with Kawhi right now on who can be the worst superstar in the league. And I know it's injuries. You can't really control injuries. And a lot of the main argument is, well, the Sixers, like, it's too early on. We haven't seen them all play together yet. Like, we're just trying to it's too early to get a read on them. They're going to be fine. It's a long season. They'll get healthy. And my logic is telling me that argument is kind of flawed because it's the beginning of the season. How are they already not healthy? Like, why would playing more games more frequently and more meaningful games later on the stretch make this team in turn more healthy? Now, Tyrese Maxey, I'm going to give a pass to. This is the first time he's really missed a significant, and it's not even that significant, as he's supposed to return either tonight against Memphis or later in the week in their next game. But he hasn't really missed time. He's been relatively healthy for his entire career, and he's been one of the few guys that is out there running, basically playing hero ball when Joel and PG are not playing, which was at least the first 5 games of the season without PG, first 10, no, maybe 8 or 9 without Embiid, and Embiid missing time to begin with in the beginning of the season is a whole nother story. It's like literally, how are you injured? You were just playing a couple months ago and haven't played basketball since. How are you injured? What are you injured from? How are you not ready for the start of the season? Those are my initial concerns. I've argued with this a lot. But and now we're past that point. He's back, but even since we've been back, we lost to the Knicks, sat out the next night against the Cavaliers because this is a team sitting. They were 2-8 at the time that can totally afford to lose more games and just chalk up the white flag. And then again, him and PG together lose against the Magic. They lose after having an early lead against the Heat just the other night. They're 0-3 since he's been back, 0-4 in total, and he just hasn't looked like the same player. He hasn't looked like the same player whatsoever. I know it's early season, but he's just not been the guy. I mean, he's putting up 15 a game. Paul George has not looked that good. Well, I don't want to say not looked that good because there's no consistency. There's no fucking consistency with this team. Who's on the floor each night, and it's impossible to be good when you don't know who you're playing with on any given night, and you're just trying to learn on the fly. This is what happens. This is exactly what happens. 2-11. The only 2 wins they have are an overtime win over the Pacers because of Tyrese Maxey and an overtime win over the Hornets. Two teams that are not exactly top of the league. Now, have they lost some close games? Yes. Have they played some good teams? Yes. But should we be losing by 10 to the fucking Pistons? No. No. Should the 24-year-old cornerstone piece be holding a team meeting in which he calls out the former MVP, the 30-year-old former MVP who just signed a new contract extension? No, he shouldn't. There's just a lack of accountability that Joel Embiid has always had. It's followed him throughout his career, and honestly, I'm sick of defending him. I'm sick of defending it. I want the Sixers to be good so bad, I really do, and that's ultimately where this comes from. It comes from a place of frustration that you aren't living up to what you should be. You have all the talent in the world, and yes, you fought through injuries, so many injuries to continue to play for us, but it's just not enough, man. It's not enough. I thought last year was our perfect shot on paper. The team was not as good, no, but when you have Embiid, he played at an elite, a better level than he did his MVP year in the first 40 games before he goes down. I thought that was look. I try to find the positive in every situation. I'm going to try and find a positive spin at the end of this. So last year, my positive spin was all right. Embiid playing an MVP level. He's going to miss some time. That's okay. That's okay. Maxi, try and hold us down. Win some of the games that we can win. At least hang in there. Look all right. And that's kind of what happened. We lost a lot of games. You're not going to win much without Joel, and especially without, PG wasn't here yet either. But it's like, all right, you come back, a couple games before the playoffs, get some time to break back into the rhythm before we get the playoffs. Ideally now, you just spent multiple months recovering from an injury. You got a couple games to run it back. You should be fully healthy headed into the playoffs. There should be no health concerns from you. You were already injured and recovered. This should be the best shape you're in now because you've had multiple months to recover without playing basketball. And then you get a couple games to work things out that don't matter at the end of the year. So I went into the playoffs thinking, yeah, we can beat the Knicks. I wasn't too high on the Knicks. We can definitely at least run with them. And no, they literally it was what 4-1, 4-2 last year. And in even the games we won, we should have lost. Like that Tyrese Maxey savior overtime game. Embiid did drop 51 game. I do remember, just not enough. Not enough against a very good Knicks team, and he looked tired out there. It was the same old thing that we've seen where Joel Embiid goes missing in the fourth quarter because he does if he's not scoring and he's not making a defensive impact, he's not doing anything. He's not a good rebound. Well, he is a good rebounder because he's a 7-footer, but compared to other 7-footers, he's not a good rebounder. He doesn't attack the boards with that same effort because he's so fucking tired all the time from running up and down the court, from anchoring the defense and taking all these shots. And I feel like that's why we see him settle, especially in big games in the fourth quarter. We see him settle for contested mid ranges when he should just be driving in. You're 7 feet tall. Drive into the paint and go to work with your post moves. You don't need. I understand you're a great free throw, or not free. Well, you are a great free throw shooter, but I understand you're a great mid range shooter as well. But come on, use your frame, man. And last year ended the way it did. And then you come into this offseason, they get you all the help you wanted. You were sitting up there flirting with Paul George during the finals coverage. We re-extend Maxey, of course. Bring in the guys you want for you to not even fucking play. And then when you do play, you're not even acting like you want to be out there. Like it's so frustrating. It's so frustrating to see. I just want this team to be good, and they should be good. So the fact that they're sitting here at 2-11, like the process Sixers, is embarrassing. It's embarrassing. I mean, Paul George been taking nights off as well. That's just kind of how things go with the load managing, and it gets to a point. It's like, what are we load managing if we're 2-11? We need to make the fucking playoffs first before we start worrying about their managing for the playoffs. It doesn't make sense to me. It just does not make any sense to me. Really hoping that Tyrese Maxey comes back tonight and we're able to see the Sixers take on the Grizzlies at full strength for what's going to be the first time all year. And this is a prop I put out in my head at the beginning of the year. 20.5. Do we think that the Sixers stars, all three of them, play 20.5 games together? Maxey, Embiid, and PG in an 82-game season? Because honestly, I don't think so. I really don't. And that just kind of goes to show you the state of the Sixers right now. It's pathetic. 2-11, sitting behind the 3-12 Raptors, with no hope right now. No hope. Just looking to get everybody back. And I told you I'd give a little positive spin on it. That's the one thing the Sixers have going to them right now is that we don't know what they all look like together. We don't. They could be an elite level team like they've been projected to when they all play. But will they? I don't know. I don't know. On paper, they're so complete. Maxi at the 1, PG at the 3-4 spot, and Joel at the 5. Gives you an energetic, fast, score first guard who could shoot from anywhere and finish anything on the court in Maxi. And you have that connecting piece in Paul George, who is a primary defender, is going to take on the number one option of any team. And how I can't stress how important that is down the stretch and how important that was even last year. We didn't have a guy that could guard Brunson. And while PG wouldn't follow Brunson throughout the entirety of the game, he would play a large part in defending him. And then pair that up with score anything, literally all-time scorer Joel Embiid, who's also a great presence on the defensive end. It should be a complete team. All three of them are good at three completely different things that all should play into each other as one cohesive unit. Now it takes time to see all together, and we're not right now, but eventually we're going to be working against the clock. And when it comes down to, let's say, 15, 20 games left at the end of the year, this team has a 500 or a little bit above 500 record and is trying to close things out to avoid the play-in and get higher seeding. Are they going to be taking games off? I don't know. I don't know, because the answer is probably yes, which is going to only mess up the chemistry and our seeding even worse. Seeding is a thing that does matter. It's hard to win big games on the road in the playoffs, and For a guy like Joel Embiid who has never won a big game in his life, you want to take any advantage that you can get. You want to have that home playoff game. It's it is a big deal. I'm just kind of done with this team for right now, and I watch every night like something's gonna change, and it just hasn't yet. I will be watching this game tonight, 8 o'clock at Memphis, and hope everything works out. Hope there's something positive to post about. I want to thank you guys for listening. I know I've been slacking. It's been a while here from C Mitch Clips, but big things are on the way. I've been doing my own fair share of things. I now work for the Coastal Carolina football team. Been sticking with the radio. Called a basketball game the other week. Things are happening, So, working a job, but I do want to ideally return to this, even if it's not right in this moment over my winter break from college, and especially back over the summer. Should be a fun time. Should have some things coming up, and hopefully we can unpack a great Eagles run as we get deeper into the winter, and after that, a whatever the hell is going on with the Sixers run. I want to thank you guys for listening. This has been C Mitch Clips. I'll see you guys in the next one.